On this episode of Robe Chats, the podcast.
You know, it's so fun because it's grown so organically. It is a platform for the working LD, and there's got to be a way for me to pay it forward.
From Limelight Wired, Rane Renshaw. Welcome once again to Robe Chats, the podcast. My name is Brian Matthews. I am your host. And as you can see, we are broadcasting once again from the NAB show here in Las Vegas. And today we are joined by the one and only Rane Renshaw, Mr. Limelight Wired.
Wow.
Rane, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. The booth looks great. The show's been awesome.
Thank you.
A lot of excitement.
Yeah, we're really proud of it. David, I will say for those that are watching and listening, David Gonzalez and Edwin Silva are our technicians helping us out behind the scenes. So big shout out to Edwin and David for putting this whole little setup together.
It's honestly the smoothest show I've ever been talent on. One of one.
We'll segue in with that. One of the things I like to start with our guests that we get is basically just kind of everybody wants to know, and you know I'm sure you do on social media because we do on the Robe Way. We're constantly getting requests from or not requests but questions about how do I get in the industry, right? I want to be a concert lighting designer, or I want to be a concert lighting programmer. How do I start? So I always like to ask people, how did you get your start in the industry? Where were you in life when you first fell in love with this crazy world that we call home?
Yeah, man, that's such a good question because everybody comes from a different way, and their story is so unique. I was so young when I first started, around 7 or 8 years old, kind of like a lot of people who are hobbyists at first. And I was working at a mega church in Texas. My mom was the piano player in the band, and I was like 8 years old running around like plugging stuff in or gripping cables for camera people, and just obsessed with being in the mix. And as I grew, I was trusted with a little more responsibility, whether it was running data for LED cables. And that's really how my fascination got started with this, because that time was really like an explosion of gear. Like this was when LED lights were first starting to become, mass produced, and moving lights were becoming affordable for churches and, venues that weren't multi-million-dollar productions. So It was fun to get your hands on this gear and try to replicate the Grammys, at your house of worship or whatnot. And that's really how I got started. I had a really good people around me that were just supportive of like giving me opportunities to learn. And that led me to go to theater school. I went to Carnegie Mellon, a really great university. Still have a lot of great friends from that time. And while I was in school, I worked at a nightclub on the weekends in Pittsburgh. And that's where I bit the nightclub bug. And after school, I've kind of worked my way up through nightclubs. I went from the Pittsburgh venue Diesel to Omnia out here in Vegas. I spent some time in Miami at Live and Story and M2. And now I'm back here in Las Vegas at Zook. And still feeling like that 8-year-old kid running around playing with toys,
I gotta ask, because I'm a Texas boy. What part of Texas were you?
Dallas.
Where are you from? Are you really?
Yeah, where are you from?
I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay, what area?
Bedford area, right?
Okay,
right close to the airport.
I grew up in Carrollton. Yeah.
Oh.
Love that area.
I didn't know you were a Texas boy. That's nice.
Man.
We have a Texas connection.
Yes, my mom knows if I fly home, I'll be going to Whataburger before I see her. I just got to bring her one.
It's a Texas staple. That's for sure. It's like when we come out to LA, we got to go to In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah, and they have a Whataburger here now on the Strip in Las Vegas.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that Texas had come so far. Good for Whataburger.
Yeah.
Well, I also wanted to jump in. I like that because a lot of people, and all the people I've talked to, a lot of people, I haven't heard one that got their start, in the house of worship. Mm-hmm. It was usually, were you in theater like in high school or anything or?
Yeah, eventually in middle school and high school, I got slowly magnetized to the theater production because I realized that there was that was kind of what I was doing at church. But at the time, I wasn't pursuing it as a career. It was like purely a hobby.
Right.
And I do remember a time where I was like, wait a minute, this could be like something that I do forever. And, the mentality changed. But it's fun starting in house of worship and going to theater and doing clubs and, everything in between, because you learn so much from the different applications.
Yeah.
And you can take from theater into the nightclub, or you can take the flash and trash of a concert club and take it into theater. And I think there's a lot of like cross polluting in a healthy way from those different lanes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's very true, that you're able to cross over, and that's great that you've had your foot in all those different kinds of environments, and how to light them, and how to programming, and have the nuances that come with each of those.
Yeah, house of worships too, really harness kind of like the true part of being an LD, to where there's an emotional connection between the cueing of lights, and you're trying to manifest that or have it, live in a real world space, is like this emotive quality of hardware. And I think that having so many years in the church, being, trying to find that in a cueing way, kind of makes cueing across any opera, theater, concert a little, easier, because you're listening, or you're trying to find that emotive element of what you're cueing, and you're, this doesn't quite feel right. You know what I mean? You're trying to make it feel right.
Some of the most fabulous designs that I'm seeing out there now on social media is coming from the house of worship side.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really, when I was a kid, going to church, and in Texas, it was, we sat down and opened up our hymnals and sang, and that was it. But now it's full on production. I mean, it's LED walls, it's moving lights,
it's crazy,
pyro, it's everything.
Well, I can't remember the team's name, but my mom, to go back to Texas, sings in a Christmas production at Prestonwood Church, and there's camels, and there's flying angels, and there's LED screens, and there's all sorts of stuff. And but it's true, Easter, Christmas, there's some incredible production happening.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to chat with you about what most people who are going to be listening to this podcast know you for, outside of your nightclub work, and that is Limelight Wired. Now, this thing, when I first saw you starting it, I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
But man, this has really blown up. Just kind of take us back to that early days of Limelight Wired. Not so much of what it is now, but back then, what was your idea for starting it, and what was kind of the motivation to get that going?
It's so fun because it's grown so organically, and over a long period of time, that I've been as a part of the growth of it as it has, so of the platform. So I feel, connected to it in such a way. But, when I first started it, it was just purely memes and jokes and trying to form a sense of community, right?
Right.
And, a lot of times, let's go back to these lanes of lighting that we could say, like the house of worship and the clubs and the corporate. There's a lot of times you get stuck in these niches, and you forget how much you have in common with the people that are doing the same work in different lanes, right? And I just wanted a community where I could bring all of my club friends, and all of my house of worship friends, and my theater friends, and my corporate friends, and my B2B friends, and we could all laugh at the same jokes, because we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Even though maybe what we're hands-on console time is different, And so that's how it started, was like, these are the jokes that we can all laugh at and we can all relate to, because they're real. And around that same time was COVID, and I was left with a lot of spare time to pour some effort into the platform, and I really wanted to go the educational route. And so at the time, I was just posting, infographics that would be helpful to people that were getting started, because at that time, a lot of people had picked up the craft.
Yeah.
And those are the two pillars of the platform, is, education and community.
Yeah. Well, we'll first start with the community side, and we'll get the elephant out of the room first, with the March Madness Mayhem and the 5-time winning Mega Point. Now, for all of our viewers and listeners out there who may be listening, just kind of tell them how this voting process takes place.
Moving Light Madness is like the most fun campaign of the year. 64 moving lights are put tournament style, just like Moving Light Madness, to battle it down to the final 4 and then final 1. They're organized by brackets, by fixture type. So you've got beams, you've got spot and profile, wash, strobe and bar, and everything faces off in an Instagram story where you vote. Popular vote determines the winner. And that is what is so exciting about it, is that there's no other metric that determines what fixture advances other than popular vote.
Right.
And It's a little vague, but that's okay. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's all of these cool fixtures that I think it's a great opportunity for people to see fixtures that they might not know existed, you know? And it's hard for working LDs and programmers to stay in tune with all of the new gear that's coming out, because there's gear coming out all the time, and half of it isn't really applicable to what you're doing every day. So I just try to, I think it's so fun because at the same time that you want to battle out your most favorite heartfelt fixture, you also want to learn about new gear that's in the market. So Moving Light Madness is just a combination of all of those things.
And how do you select the fixtures that get into the 64?
Okay, there are, well, first I talk with each manufacturer ahead of the campaign to see what is new, what's going on in case I missed anything. And then there are also crowd favorites, you know, that have made a lasting impression in previous campaigns, and they continue to make their way up. And then every year, some fixtures get dropped and new gear gets popped in based on what the market is. I ask my audience what fixtures they'd like to see in the tournament this year, and if I go in and I see that there's an overwhelming representation of a new fixture or even manufacturer, then it's time to go look at that, because, you know, this kind of is a competition for the people.
Right.
So if the people are interested in a fixture, then let's put it in the mix.
Absolutely.
And there will always be a 1,000-watt par can with a loose bolt, because we have all used one. And we've all made it work.
What's the farthest the 1,000-watt par can has made it?
Maybe one round. I have to go back and look. But, you know, it's fun, and people get involved, manufacturers get involved, they're sharing, and I'm, you know, it's just fun. It's all fun. So all the positive energy and messages and comments that I've gotten about the campaign, I appreciate, because that's what it's for. It's for everybody.
Yeah. And just to put everybody to rest, the Mega Point has won by popular vote.
Yeah.
Legit style.
Wow. And this year you can go on Limelight Wired's website and you can see all the voting metrics. So you can see from the round of 64 to the final, every vote, how they matched up, if you want to see the proof.
Well, I watch it, you know, because I do the Robe Way social media. So first year it won, that was great. Yeah. Second year it won, I was like, hey, wait, back to back, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Third year I'm thinking, though, there's no way. I mean, it's been around for a while, but the light just keeps on
winning.
Some
call
winning.
It a dynasty.
Yeah.
Some are still using it.
Well, we're very proud of that. I mean, that's a, you know, when it is such a single metric of popular vote, right? People who follow you, who follow, you know, lighting, they vote.
Yeah.
And it was an honor on our side, and you don't say that lightly.
Yeah.
That people have enjoyed that light for as long as they have.
Were you aware that it was that popular? Like, this is a long time for it to still be the overwhelming.
We are, because we still can't make enough of these lights. I mean,
they're still going out.
People are constantly still wanting more Mega Points.
Okay, let's plug it. Will there be a Mega Point 2? What can you say?
What can I say? I can say, stay tuned.
All right. That's the bit we need. Let's mark that.
I can say
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. And we'll see what happens.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay tuned. Cool.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Limelight Wired, because it's grown. You know, the education side, it was one of those original pillars that you're really focused on, and that side has grown tremendously. I was checking it out on the app the other day and saw that you had several different classes that you're offering now as well. Just kind of talk about those. What all kinds of classes are you offering now with Limelight Wired?
Thank you, man. It's exciting. Last year we rolled out 4 online self-paced courses. And they start with introduction to production. There's a design focus that's a little more focused on color mixing and, you know, maybe the artistry, the light, and the storytelling of, you know, cueing. There's a programming course that's kind of goes into the details of, like, what's the role of a programmer? You know, what are the responsibilities and how, you know, what you should expect to do or be a part of as a programmer through an entire production. And then there's a course on lighting consoles, networking basics, to put those programming principles in practice. And we don't go into specific console syntax. It's universal, so that you could really kind of approach any desk that you find, quickly skim through the console and be like, oh, that's how I patch, or this is the profile or the mode. It kind of enables you with the knowledge to go into any show and have a fundamental knowledge. And those classes are online. They are self-paced. You can take them when you finish. You get a coupon for the next one. And if you just message us, if you message Limelight Wired on the social platform on Instagram, we'll send you a coupon code to get rolling if that's something to start, because it's accessible education, for anybody that wants to get rolling, and at your own pace. You don't have to go anywhere.
Where did that passion for education come from? I mean, have you always been sort of wanting to help that next generation, or the younger kids kind of learn, or maybe not younger kids, could be of any age, just trying to learn? Where did the passion for educating on this come from?
I think I'm fortunate in the fact that I wouldn't be here today making a career out of this craft if I didn't have people that were putting knowledge into my brain along the way. And there's got to be a way for me to pay it forward. And what better way to do that than to make it accessible to as many people as possible? And that's definitely why I continue to stay driven on putting it out there, because it is hard sometimes to learn in this industry, because of the fact that if you're teaching somebody the knowledge, then they essentially could replace you, right? That's like the big elephant in the room of this industry. Is like, well, I can't make them better than me, because then there won't be me. But I come to that. I view that in a little more of a collaborative way. The more sharp tools that are in the shed, the better the shed is. So yeah, man, limelightwire.com, and like you said, you can purchase, sign up, and take those courses online or on our app, which is available on the App Store on iOS and Google Play.
And then there's another side of it. I mean, there's so many facets to Limelight Wired that fascinate me. And the last one is the swag.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you came up with this cool logo, and you started putting it on some hats and some shirts and stuff, and now you've got this whole sort of swag line that's going on with it. Kind of talk about the evolution of that. Did that surprise you when people wanted to start wearing your logo?
It did. The swag is cool. I like to keep it. We do giveaways as much as we can, and their stickers are awesome. The stickers are really popular. We make stickers of our memes, and you can find them on road cases all over the world. Because the swag is so cool, because I send it to people all over the world, which a lot of times I forget how global our industry is, and it's a good reminder of that. But I'm proud that people are interested in wearing the Limelight Wired hoodies and hats all over the place, because, it is a platform for the working LD, right? And I'd like any LD programmer, ME, to see themselves in the jokes that we're posting, or, find something relevant in the content that we're producing, and just see themselves in the brand, because that's what it's about.
Yeah, I think people do. I mean, because I think that's why the industry has embraced it the way they have, is because you are making it universal, and everybody can kind of see themselves, in what you're doing. So I applaud you for that.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
We've enjoyed watching how you've evolved over time, and what do you want to do with it in the future? How far do you want to go with it? What's more education, more?
Stay tuned.
I love it.
A lot of plans are in the works. I don't want to jinx anything. I don't want to put anything out there too soon, but I'm really excited, especially in the next 3 to 5 years, to keep pressing. And we're not slowing down.
That's
Moving
awesome.
Like Madness will only get bigger as long as people keep voting. And we're really active on the messages. So if you send us a message, if you have a question, if you want to see some content, I'm happy to put it out there. If there's a lane of content that LDs need, that would be valuable to them, that they're not seeing anywhere, let us know. Email us, message us. We're ready to make it happen.
Well, Limelight Wired is for the working LD, and you yourself are a working LD. I know for a fact, I've been watching you. I was looking at your projects gallery, and Live nightclub, Omnia nightclub, Zook nightclub. Kind of, how did you get into that nightclub sort of industry, and kind of tell people what a lot of people may look at a nightclub LD and be like, man, that's so glamorous. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of give them a little backstage view of what life as a working nightclub LD looks like.
Man, it's nonstop. Here in Vegas, There's shows every weekend. There's new tourists every weekend. There's a new convention every weekend. There's something going on every weekend. So every weekend we're churning out 3, 4, 5 full production shows with headliners that want everything to be perfect. And so, it's a grind, but it's satisfying because you have hands on the console so often. You're making shows happen. And you get to be really involved. I think there's not a lot of productions that you get to have such proximity to the creative elements of the job. I think that's something that I value about the clubs, is that there's creative autonomy within the production as long as you have a great relationship with the talent. And it never stops.
On the club side, when a DJ or someone comes through, will they bring an LD with them, or is it mostly you jump behind the console and working with them on that?
Each artist is totally different. So honestly, each night we're reorganizing the venue to fit their needs. Some artists will come with a complete team: sound, lighting, lasers, video, stage manager, everything. Some artists just show up themselves. They live here and they drove to the venue.
Yeah.
Some artists are really involved and they want to come in for a couple days beforehand and sit in front of house and work through the show. Some shows are completely time coded. Some shows are entirely busked. We have to be ready for everything and to make it work, because there's really no such thing as being like, oh, that's not what we do here. We're a venue that is versatile. We do all sorts of genres: hip hop, EDM, Latin, pop. We're ready to make the venue available for them at any point, and the show's always going to look good. So sometimes LDs do come, and I'm fortunate to get to work with those people because they're all just some of the sharpest guys in the industry. And they're coming in off of some crazy shows as well, so the stories to swap is always great. But it could really be anything, and you could be expecting an LD to show up and the flight gets delayed and you have to jump on the board and be ready for it. So I'm fortunate to be at a venue with a lot of great gear, and it kind of lays the foundation for me to step in and have a great show whenever I'm ready.
Yeah. So when you're creating those shows, is it, like you said some artists are deeply involved? How does the collaborative process get going for you guys when they come in? Is it a sit down meeting and you kind of talk about what they want it to do, what they want to look like, and stuff like that?
It's pretty organic. The first person we're going to ask, or if we haven't gotten any information, the first person we're going to go to is a tour manager, and they might give us some like, oh, we really don't want green, or we really don't want the screens that bright, or maybe the automation is distracting, so we'd like to keep it here. Usually we're going to get some sort of parameters like that to work within. And then after that, it's kind of, we're going to do our thing. They trust us to carry the show at a level that matches the venue and the artist. And we're just all on our phones all night. So if something happens that they don't like, they'll be like, hey, maybe don't go rainbow again. Or, if there's a song coming up that is laser specific, maybe they'll give us a nudge like, hey, in a couple songs, use the lasers on this track. And we'll be ready for it. We're equipped with a lot, at a venue like Zook, we're equipped with a lot of tools to make that on the fly sort of process easier. We use show control to integrate into the CD players. So not only can we see the tracks that are loaded, but we see the waveforms, and we're pulling BPM information into the console. So all of our, rhythmic effects are perfectly on point. As the artists switch songs, the BPM will switch with it so that it's staying in flow.
Nice.
And we can also pull time code from that. Several artists like Illenium has allowed me and our team to program their intro. And so he comes in with his SD card or flash drive, sticks it into the CD player, presses play, and a whole time-coded show from Madrix, MA, and visuals runs without any checks. It's pretty crazy the way that everything has evolved to do that. And in that situation, you get a pretty turnkey production that's predictable. You know what I mean? There's not even any busking going on there. So, yeah.
At one LDI, I was invited to go to Omnia and check out the light show, and I was like, hey, yeah, that's great. What time should I show up? And they were like, I said, should I be there like 7, 8? And they're like, nah, get there like 1. what's the hour?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
What's the hours of a house LD in a nightclub in Vegas?
That's good. I call it an inverted 9 to 5, or 8 to 4. I get in about 8 p.m. sound check will happen about 9 or 8:30, so that's gives us a half an hour to get everything booted up. And then by the time sound check's over, it's 10. We're rolling doors at 10:30. So we get there and we hit the ground running pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is we'll set a nice opening look until about midnight, and at midnight the room really comes to life. The DJ knows to pick a song that has a lot of energy. All the production elements come in at once, and from midnight on, it's full show. And then, Vegas decides when we get to go home, usually. So the crowd stays until the crowd stays, and hopefully the sun is still down when we get there. But yeah, it can be some late nights. And, if you're waiting on an email from me, it'll probably come in the afternoon.
Oh, man. So kind of just looking overall at all of this, I mean, you obviously have a love for the industry. Everything you're doing with Limelight Wire is education and community, and you're a working LD because you're passionate about creating those shows and those events. What is it about this industry that you love so much? What is it that keeps your fire burning?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I could answer that a lot of ways, because I think there are still a lot of ways that I'm still, interested in the fire burns. And what's so cool about this industry is that it's self-generating new stuff. And that's a terrible way to say that, but manufacturer side, you're going to come out with a light. It's going to be the latest and greatest light on the market. You're going to give it to us LDs, and we're going to give you nothing but complaints. Not because the light's not good, but we're going to say, for the next version, we'd really like this and this and this and this. And then you guys get back to work, and you come out with a second iteration of the fixture. And so there's always something to look forward to. There's new laser sources out on the market now. LEDs you pick your engine these days. It's just so cool to see how so much is developed so quickly and advanced so much, and then adopted just as quickly into shows. I like seeing a new fixture come out and being like, let's see where that's going to end up. And then 2 months later, it's on a tour, and you get to be like, wow. That's what keeps the main fire alive for me. And, there's a feeling you get at the end of the show that's unlike any other job that I've ever had, right? You come out with a project in a corporate job, and often you're just right into the next project. If you finish a show and you all look at each other and you high five each other and you're like, yeah, we did that. That's a feeling that will always be there at the end of a show, and you can't really replicate in any other place. And I think that's another element that keeps me coming back, because Ross, my great friend Ross, always says that there's nothing like saying house lights go. You get goosebumps thinking about it. Yeah,
there's that moment where the anticipation is built, and everybody's sort of at that fevered pitch.
Yeah, at Zook we can build the room so perfectly, and right before the headliner goes on, right before the intro's playing, every phone in the room is out, everyone is still. It's almost like this anti-climactic paradox, because it's like the most energy in the room ever, but everyone is still. And that's kind of when you look around and you're like, oh, everyone's ready for showtime. You know what I mean? Like, it's a cool feeling.
It's go time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we'll get you out on this. Thank you very much for stopping by and chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
If you were at that church with a young Rane Renshaw who was, patching his cables and learning how to do that, and he came to you for a little bit of advice, just looking back on everything that you've been through and everything that you've gone through, and where you're at today, what advice would you give to a young Rane Renshaw about how to maybe not make it, because that's objective, right? But
superfluous.
How to feel that sense of success in this industry.
Well, first I would say take advantage of every opportunity that presents itself. Every person, every show, every relationship. Don't burn any bridges, because I think when you get started out and you say things like Grammys and Las Vegas residencies and big shows, you think that this world is so big, and we even talked about how it's a global industry. And then I'm gonna go back and say that it's the smallest industry in the world, right? Yeah. It's a very tight-knit community. We all laugh at the same memes. We all know that now. But when you fracture a relationship with someone, you really fracture a relationship with everyone. So, if I could tell young Rane, it would be just be patient, man. Take your time, because it's all coming to you. You just gotta let it, and continue to be that little kid in a candy store, because anytime you lose that feeling, that's when you're getting farther away from where you need to be. Recognize when you feel that childlike wonder of what's going on, and try to stay close to those things that bring that out of you. And it doesn't feel like work.
Thank you very much, Rane. It's been a pleasure to sit and chat with you. So everybody check out Limelight Wired. You can find it all over social media. It's on YouTube. It's not easy to miss. So check out Limelight Wired and see what Rane is doing. And remember, you can get our Robe Chats podcast on all your favorite podcasting platforms. You can also find us on YouTube. We'll sign off the way that we always do. May the light always shine your way. You could make it the Robe way. Have a great day.